day had started just like any other. It was a warm afternoon, with the sun hidden behind a blanket of clouds, casting the world in a soft, overcast glow. The house was quiet, eerily so, and for the first time in weeks, I found myself alone. I'm Mark Williams, a 23-year-old recent college graduate. After a few years of school, I was still figuring things out. I lived with my parents, but for the weekend, they and my younger sister had gone to visit my grandparents. They'd left me with the house to myself for 3 days, and honestly, I wasn't quite sure what to do with the quiet. I was used to the noise and chatter of family life, but now I had the whole place to myself. The air inside was still, almost stagnant, as if the house itself was waiting for something. I grabbed a book to read, tried to relax, but found the silence a bit oppressive. Eventually, I gave up on the idea of a relaxing evening and called up my friend Alex to hang out. He wasn't busy, so he came over. We spent the night playing video games, reminiscing about old times, and catching up on things. But around 1 a.m., Alex had to head home. I wasn't ready to be alone again, but I didn't want to push him to stay. After he left, I sat there for a while, listening to the quiet, feeling the weight of the emptiness around me. It wasn't long before the quiet started to feel a little too unsettling. I lay in bed, replaying the events of the evening when suddenly, I heard it. Something faint. A scraping sound, like something dragging across glass. I tensed, the hairs on the back of my neck rising. At first, I thought it was just the wind, or maybe my imagination. I tried to brush it off, but the longer I listened, the clearer it became. It wasn't a sound I could ignore. The house felt like it was holding its breath. I convinced myself it was nothing. Maybe the wind tapping against the window, or perhaps some stray noise from the trees outside. I closed my eyes, took a deep breath, and tried to relax. But sleep didn't come easily. The next day was uneventful. I kept myself busy with small tasks around the house, trying to fill the hours. But by nightfall, the feeling of unease crept back in. The thought of that scraping sound lingered in the back of my mind. Around 1 a.m., the knock at the door came. My heart leapt in my chest. I hadn't expected anyone. It wasn't the hour for visitors. I stood still, listening. The knock came again. This time, louder. I hesitated, my pulse quickening. Was it just someone at the wrong house? I grabbed a baseball bat from the hall closet and cautiously walked toward the door. My fingers trembled as I reached the peephole. There was no one. I opened the door, peering into the dark, empty night. Nothing. But as I closed the door, I heard it again. The scraping sound, now unmistakable. It came from the window. I walked toward the window, feeling a strange sense of dread creeping over me. As I peered outside, I saw nothing. No movement, no figure. The night was still. Confused and unsettled, I went back to bed, but sleep evaded me. I stayed awake, staring at the ceiling, thinking about the noises that had no explanation. That third night, the air felt heavier. The weight of the previous night's events hung over me. I decided to distract myself, hoping to shake off the feeling. I opened a video game, trying to lose myself in it, but my thoughts kept returning to those odd noises. The sound at the window, the knock at the door. Around 2 a.m., the footsteps on the roof began. My body went rigid. The sound was unmistakable. Heavy footsteps walking across the roof. I froze in place, listening. Who would be walking on the roof? Panic bubbled up inside me. I rushed to the window but saw nothing. No figure on the roof, no sign of movement. But I could hear the steps. They were real, tangible. The same unsettling rhythm repeated, growing closer. I couldn't stay another minute in that house. I grabbed my things, picked up the phone, and called Alex, pleading for him to let me stay at his place. I didn't care how late it was. I couldn't stay alone anymore. After a few days staying at Alex's place, I reluctantly returned home with my parents. They had returned from their trip, and I was supposed to be back to my usual routine. But I couldn't shake the feeling that something was still off. I tried to explain the whole situation to them, but my father, the eternal skeptic, brushed it off. "You're just tired, son. It's all in your head. You've been alone too long." My mother was a bit more concerned, but even she wasn't fully convinced. "Maybe you're right, but let's keep the lights on for a while, just in case." Despite my father's nonchalance, I couldn't ignore the growing unease. The feeling that something unnatural had taken place in that house lingered. It wouldn't leave. Curious, my parents reached out to the house's previous owner. The conversation with the old man seemed off. He was hesitant when speaking to them, and although he denied any issues, his voice betrayed him. "No, we never had any issues like that," he said. But there was something in his tone. Something that didn't sit right. Had he really never noticed anything strange? That's when I started wondering if the house had a dark history. Something buried in the past that had yet to reveal itself. The way the old man spoke, the way he tried to dismiss it, made me question everything. The strange events stopped, but they didn't stop haunting me. The house was quieter now, but I still found myself checking locks, peering out the windows, scanning the streets when I drove by. I kept wondering, had I been imagining it? The fear never fully went away. There were moments when the house felt like it was watching me, like the silence between the walls held something just beyond my reach. Could it all have been in my head? Or was something darker waiting in the shadows? The stormy night outside was the kind of weather that always made things feel heavier, more oppressive. The wind howled against the trees, and the rain beat relentlessly against the windows, casting ripples of water down the panes as though nature itself was trying to drown out the silence. Thunder rumbled in the distance, occasionally lighting up the darkened sky with sudden bright flashes. The power flickered intermittently, only adding to the unsettling atmosphere that clung to everything around me. I'm Emily Thompson, 18 years old, a college freshman studying philosophy. I tend to be logical and rational, and my approach to life has always been shaped by the need for clarity and order. But tonight, something felt different. I live in a quiet residential neighborhood on the outskirts of Seattle. My parents are always busy with work and social events, leaving me alone at home more often than I'd like. Tonight, they'd gone to a late-night gathering, leaving me with the house to myself for the evening. As I sat curled up in the cozy living room, the soft glow of the table lamp casting shadows on the walls, I found myself reading one of my textbooks. The house felt empty. Too empty. The rain kept beating against the windows, the occasional crash of thunder making everything seem far more ominous. My thoughts kept drifting, and for the past few days, a sense of unease had been building up inside me. While walking home from college, I'd noticed a figure in a black hoodie and sunglasses, standing at a distance. At first, I told myself it was a coincidence, a random person on a walk. But every time I went out, the feeling of being watched grew stronger. It was as though there was always someone just beyond my line of sight. It was around 10:30 p.m., and I was absorbed in my studies when I heard it. A sharp knock at the door. I froze, the sound cutting through the quiet like a knife. I hesitated. The weather outside was nasty, and it didn't make sense for anyone to be out here in this storm. Who would knock at this hour? The second knock came, louder and more insistent. I walked toward the door, my stomach already in knots. The rain was so heavy that I could barely see through the windows, and the doorbell didn't work on days like this. So, I peered through the peephole, expecting to see a delivery person, or perhaps a neighbor. What I saw made my heart skip a beat. A middle-aged man, soaked from head to toe, stood there, shivering. He wore a dark jacket, and despite the rain, he had a faint, unsettling smile on his face. His eyes were dark and hollow, and something about his demeanor immediately raised my guard. "Please, let me in," he said in a shaky voice. "I'm an old friend of your father. The storm is too much. I just need a place to stay for a while." I didn't recognize him. I didn't know anyone who fit his description. Had my father been expecting someone? My gut told me something was wrong. I didn't recognize the man, and there was no way he was an old friend of my father's. I stepped back from the door, trying to think. I immediately grabbed my phone and dialed my father's number. His voice came through the line immediately, and he sounded groggy. "What's up, Emily?" "Dad," I said, trying to keep my voice calm. "There's a man at the door saying he's an old friend of yours. I don't recognize him. What should I do?" "What?" He sounded more awake now, his voice full of concern. "I don't know anyone like that. Emily, do not open the door. Call 911 right now." I backed away from the door, my heart pounding in my chest. I didn't need to hear anything else. This man was dangerous, and something about the way he spoke, so calm, so calculated, told me that he wasn't just seeking shelter from the rain. I stood there, my breath shallow, gripping the phone tightly in my hand. Then, I spoke, trying to sound firm, even though my voice was shaking. "I can't let you in. I've called my parents." There was a moment of silence on the other side of the door. My pulse quickened. Then, in a soft, almost hissing whisper, I heard his voice again. "Oh, you've already called them? Fine. We'll meet again." I could hear his footsteps fading into the storm, but I didn't move. I stayed there by the door, staring at the spot where I had seen him moments ago. I felt like my body was paralyzed, and it took me what felt like forever to force myself to move. Within minutes, the police arrived, responding to the 911 call. I explained everything, and they searched the yard, the streets, even the area around the house. But they found nothing. No footprints, no sign of the man. The rain had washed away any trace of him. The outside security cameras had malfunctioned due to the storm, so there was no footage of him either. The officers assured me it was probably just some random stranger seeking shelter from the storm. But something inside me didn't feel right. Why had he disappeared so quickly? Why had he left without a trace? The way he spoke still lingered in my mind, unsettling and unforgiving. The police left, and my parents returned home shortly after. They were concerned but didn't seem to understand the full weight of the situation. My father, always calm and collected, tried to reassure me. "It's nothing, Emily, just some guy caught in the storm. Don't overthink it." But my mother could see that I was still shaken. She insisted on installing new security cameras around the house and reinforcing the locks. I appreciated her concern, but even with all the precautions, the feeling that something wasn't right didn't leave. For days, I couldn't shake the thought of that man and his words. And even when the knocks stopped, the fear never really left. Every time I heard a knock on the door, I hesitated. Every time I passed by the window, I felt a strange sense of being watched. It's been weeks, and life has returned to some semblance of normal. But I'm still left with one question. Who was that man? Was he just a random person? Or was there something darker behind his visit? What did he want? Why was he so insistent on coming inside, and why had he disappeared without a trace? The strangest part? I never saw him again. He never reappeared. But every time I walk past the window, I wonder if he's still out there, watching.